Alright, so Georgia football will officially kick off 8 days from now, but which this will be published the day before the game, the day before Georgia plays UT Martin. We'll start doing one of these before every game, and it's only right we start with the first game of the year, UT Martin. Another season of Georgia Bulldogs football. Bulldogs Live premiered last night, so that means the Georgia Bulldogs Radio Network returns. Here's everything you need to know. I'll give you everything you need to know about the Bulldog Radio Network, with it being broadcasting times, staff, everything you need to know about the Georgia Radio Network. And we'll start right now with the broadcast information. The broadcast for Georgia football versus UT Martin will start at 2 p.m. on the radio. Georgia Bulldogs Radio Network has the 12th. It's been a long day. The Georgia Radio Network has the second longest broadcasting time in the entire NCAA. Only behind, I believe, Nebraska or Florida State, one of those two teams. But the Georgia Radio Network will have the second longest has had the second longest broadcast airtime, and it is 15 hours long. So you go Dog Talk Live pregame, hour long. The Bulldog Tailgate Show, 3 hours long. The Countdown to Kickoff, 30 minutes long. A game can take up to 3.5 to 4 hours. The Locker Room Report, which is 30 minutes long, unless like they win the national championship, they'll go hour long maybe. But usually 30 minutes long. And then Dog Talk Postgame, which is 2.5 hours up to 3 hours. And then Sunday, the Bulldog Brunch. So it's pretty long airtime for the Georgia Radio Network. The radio crew is the same old radio crew we've gotten used to these last many years. Scott Howard returns as the Georgia play-by-play radio announcer. He's been working with the Georgia Radio Network for football since 1993. From 1990 to 1996, he did Georgia baseball, and from 1996 and now, and hopefully for the next 30 or 40 years, he does Georgia basketball. Scott was Larry Muntz's right-hand man. He was his color guy. Scott took over 2007 part-time. He did a few away games and neutral site games for Georgia, and then in 2008, Scott's first game as the full play-by-play announcer was the 2008 Alabama game. That's the infamous Prince Miller game, or what Alabama fans know as the blackout game. Nevertheless, a good day for Georgia. I know they lost, but they still had some good moments in that game. The color guy, arguably the greatest Georgia quarterback in history. Anybody else who does not believe this can you don't even have an opinion. It's invalid. Eric Zier. Eric Zier is Georgia's most successful quarterback of all time. He played in NFL. He played for the Browns, the Ravens, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Atlanta Falcons. He also is the insurance man, so he does insurance off the football field. He did the fifth quarter show on WGAU for a few years in the late 90s to mid 2000s, but in 2007 Z became the full-time, or 2008 he became the full-time color guy for Georgia. In 2007 he was the color guy for the road and neutral site games. One of the most notable of those games being the Georgia Tech game. They actually showed Larry Munson and Eric Zier and Hondo and the guys in the radio booth for the first game of the Georgia Tech game. They actually showed them for a good drive. I mean, 4 or 5 minutes. But Eric took over for Scott Howard in 2007. So he joined Scott technically. Scott just got bumped from color to play-by-play announcer. Sideline reporter, for many years it was Chuck Dowdle, and we do miss Chuck. But DJ Shockley is perhaps one of the greatest sideline reporters of all time in overall college radio broadcasting. DJ Shockley, he played for Georgia. He waited out behind David Green in 2005. I mean, he just had an amazing year. Georgia won the SEC championship, lost in the Sugar Bowl to West Virginia. They arguably should have won that game if they didn't get out to such a big deficit at halftime. But currently, DJ works for WAGA Fox 5 Atlanta. He is the lead sports anchor over there. WAGA Fox 5 just got the rights to broadcast Georgia shows and became the exclusive home for the Dogs, unfortunately leaving behind Channel 5 WSB. That's a good deal for them, though. They absolutely deserve it. WSB, we have the radio rights, so I guess it kind of makes up for it, I guess, in a way. He also is the color guy for the Atlanta Falcons. And before he joined the radio network in 2021, he also was the color guy on the SEC network. If you recall the Georgia-Arkansas game to start the COVID season, he was in the booth for that. And now we get to talk about Neil Hondo Williamson, spotter and show host, the host of the Georgia Bulldog Tailgate Show. Neil Hondo Williamson has been working on Georgia Radio Network for probably 20 years plus. He is very knowledgeable about the Georgia Bulldogs. He's Hondo. Who doesn't love Neil Williamson if you're a dog? He hosts Neil Williamson, the Bulldog All-Stars, which great episode last night. Had Kevin and Drew Butler on. The little segment about Oklahoma State game for 2009 just had me dying laughing. It was hilarious. But anyway, Hondo has served as a color guy a few times, especially going back to the early 2000s and late 90s. Infamously, he was the color guy for the fumble game in 1999. He was the color guy for the 2001, 2005 Georgia Tech game, the 2002 Georgia Tech game. Later in the year, he usually would become the color guy after Scott had to do basketball. That's when Hondo would usually step in. Hondo hosts the tailgate show, and he hosts the post-game show, the locker room show. How do you not love Neil Williamson, folks? I don't know. I mean, if you hate Neil Williamson, then I guess you just need to turn your dog badge in and not even be a Georgia fan no more. Go cheer for Alabama or something. I don't know how you can hate Neil Williamson. Lauren Smith is the next member of the Georgia Radio Network. He was the founder of the Georgia Bulldogs Tailgate Show. This got founded sometime in the 70s. I believe 1974 or 75. They always had Lauren Smith is very popular with Georgia people, especially when Munson was the broadcaster. You always hear, Orn, what you got? All right, Larry, it's sunny outside and there's Mountain Dew everywhere. Lauren Smith just has such a lovable. Lauren Smith has a lovable personality. He is one of the greatest UGA people of all time. He was the sideline reporter until his last game was the 2000. I believe his last game was in 2009 that Chuck Dowdle took over in 2010. That sounds about right. Chuck Dowdle, of course, was the sideline reporter for Georgia after Smith and then before Shockley. But Lawrence Smith's a great dude. He's a wonderful dude. He's getting up there in age. I know he can't do it forever. That's why we need to enjoy it while he's here. Dog Talk pre and post game is hosted by Jeff Densler and Kevin Butler. Fortunate for me, I get to consider Jeff Densler a great friend. Absolutely think the world of Jeff. He probably, too, is one of the most smartest people to ever come out of the University of Georgia, along with being the lead baseball announcer for Georgia baseball and full-on play-by-play announcer for Georgia women's basketball, which I always think to myself, they kind of need to get him a color person. But hey, he does a great job at what he does. Jeff is very knowledgeable about the Georgia Bulldogs, and now he has a show on the Superstations 93.1, Bill Shanks' radio station. So, absolutely think the world of Jeff. He is a great dude. Kevin Butler played kicker for the Georgia Bulldogs. He played kicker in the early 80s. His most famous kick, in my opinion, is the one he hit against Clemson, the 61-yard field goal, or was it probably 61 or 64-yard field goal against Clemson in 1984. It was a just incredible kick. I mean, just going back, looking at the footage of that kick, you probably don't even think he'd make it. But anyway, he almost hit a 71-yard field goal against Florida State in the Citrus Bowl in the same year. He would go on to get drafted by the Chicago Bears and be a part of the notorious Super Bowl Shuffle Bears team in 1985, which my Patriots, unfortunately, was on the wrong end of that Super Bowl beatdown. Love the Falcons and Patriots, but the Patriots did not get lucky that night. Another one I've talked to a few times, the engineer of the broadcast, is Jay Black. He joined the broadcast, I believe, in 2011 or 12. Jay's a good dude. I was absolutely torn when WSB got rid of him. He now works at the AJC. He's a sports director at the AJC, I believe. Jay's a good dude, man. I kind of wish they'd mic up everybody on the radio network. That would be absolutely hilarious. But unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. But once again, Jay Black is a great dude. The producer of the Georgia Radio Network, Adam Gillespie, another guy I could personally say I thankfully consider a friend. He joined the radio network in around 2019 to 2020. He also works for WCNN 680 The Fan, which is the Atlanta Braves flagship station. He is the producer for the show, the Buck Blue Show, which how 680 The Fan has not become a Georgia affiliate yet, I have absolutely no idea. It's literally in the Battery of Atlanta. Now, obviously, being the Braves flagship station, they would always put the Braves ahead of the Dogs, but I just really do not know how they have not become a Georgia affiliate yet. They are a Georgia Tech affiliate, so there's that, but a bunch of dogs on 680 The Fan, the Road Dog being one of them. He's a great dude. The co-producer of the show is of the Georgia Radio Network is Chris Schiavone. There unfortunately is no information much about him. He joined the radio network when his dad, Tony Schiavone, did. That's really, I believe he is a Boston Bruins fan, so I believe he lives in Boston or something. But unfortunately, there's not much information about him. Still love Chris too, though. I love every guy on the Georgia Radio Network. Unfortunately, there's kind of no information about him. And then in the studio host is, it used to be Calvin Philpott. Is now a Zach Jewell, and unfortunately, there's not much information about him either. That's kind of sad, but anyway, that's the radio crew. Affiliates. How can I listen to the Georgia Radio Network? Well, you're in good news. The Georgia Bulldog Radio Network has somewhere between 56 to 59 radio affiliates. They actually just updated them August 17th, so this list I have now, I wrote a few days ago, is kind of old. If you live in the area of an affiliate, you probably can listen to the game online. We just got Sirius XM radio, so I often recommend, well, I kind of don't recommend it, but if you have Sirius XM, you can listen to that, or you just plug up the old radio, man. We'll talk more about that in a second, though. The Georgia Bulldog Radio Network spans through Georgia, Tennessee, and Alabama. The most notorious affiliates here, the flagship station for the Georgia Bulldogs, WSB 750 AM and WSBB 95.5. Those are the notorious radio stations. WRFC 960 The Ref is in Athens. It's definitely a dog affiliate. It's one of the only ones that do both football, basketball, baseball, and women's basketball. So they do everything. 95.1 The Mountain out of Anston, Alabama. It's one of the out-of-state ones. 103.7 The Chuck FM. WGAC 95.1. WGOW 102.3 out of Chattanooga, Tennessee. There's another one out Cleveland, Tennessee, 99.1 The Fiesta, which probably I would say is one of the most interesting radio affiliates. I listen to The Fiesta all the time, and the fact that it's in Chattanooga, Tennessee, or Cleveland, Tennessee, is really interesting. Great radio station, though. I absolutely love listening to it. 92.1 WPH out of Louisville, Waco 100 out of Sandersville, Fun 101.1 out of Thompson. So there's a lot of radio affiliates. I just ain't gonna go through the entire list, but if you check out MAC Hoot Blog, you would see the entire list. But I just am not gonna go through it now. For people like Hayden YT and stuff like that, if you do want to make these radio highlight videos, and this is where it gets really important, there is something called a fair use law, and 99% of the time it's going to work. You could do your radio videos without being in any trouble. Fair use, copyright's a weird thing, but, and I'm saying this because people do not do this. If you are going to use audio for the Georgia Radio Network, I am begging you, please credit the University of Georgia. Anyway, what I was saying before I got distracted, I beg people to do this, man. A lot of people don't do it. Please, when you are using these radio packages, when you're using radio audio and radio broadcast audio, I don't care what team it is. I do not care what team it is. Please credit the University of Georgia, Learfield, JMI Sports, and the University of Georgia Athletic Association Incorporated. I mean, I beg people to do this. They are the people that distribute, make these broadcasts, and you should also credit the Georgia Radio Network. Scott Howard, Eric Zier, Neil Williamson, DJ Shockley, Jeff Dantzler, Kevin Butler, Adam Gillespie, Zach Jewell, everybody. These are people making the broadcast. Dude, it's like an artist. Alright, I used radio audio. I compare it like artist. When you're on Twitter or whatever, and you find a nice piece of art and you repost it, credit the artist. I mean, right? I mean, okay, I'm looking at Demon Slayer art and I see a beautiful picture of Shinobu I want to post. You definitely can go DeviantArt and credit the artist. It's common sense, people. It's easy. It won't take but 5 seconds. You could Google reverse it, anything. Just credit the people. That's with art. You can't do that with the Georgia Radio Network. So that's why I'm telling you. A lot of people don't know. Well, I don't know who produces the radio. I'm telling you, man. Georgia, the University of Georgia, UGAAI Incorporated, Learfield, and JMI Sports. Those are the 4 people, and the broadcasters. Make that 5. Those are the 5 things you need to credit with these broadcasters. Man, the radio does not get the same attention it does no more. That's a fact. That is an absolute fact. We could go with that for days. It is an absolute fact that the radio in period is not popular than it once was. That's why you got to make a valid effort to care. That's why you have to credit Learfield. You have to credit, not to mention if you don't credit Learfield and JMI Sports in Georgia, you're breaking the law. You're breaking the copyright law. I mean, come on. You're smarter than that. You don't want to get in trouble over a 5-second radio clip. So please, man, just credit Learfield and JMI Sports, Georgia, and the University of Georgia Athletic Association Incorporated. I mean, it's the right thing to do. They're the ones distributing these broadcasts. Those are the ones that make the broadcast. what would help if you get written consent from Learfield and JMI Sports. You could talk to Adam Witten about that. I love every radio broadcaster, and I'm kind of afraid to talk to some of them. That's why I use the fair use route. But I also do encourage people to go to Adam Witten and say, hey, I would like to use the audio from the 2022 Georgia Clemson game or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, you really got to credit these guys, man. Everybody, Learfield, JMI, the University of Georgia, and the University of Georgia Athletic Association Incorporated, for any reuse of these broadcasts. But now back to my original point. That is how you attain radio audio. You can record it live. You can get it from Learfield. You can trade. Tape trading is very popular nowadays. That's how I've gotten some of my stuff, was trading audio and stuff and whatnot. But broadcasting rights are a huge deal, and you got to follow the rules, man. That's just all it boils down to. If you're listening to the University of Georgia Radio Network on radio and it does not work, you need to contact your station or the Georgia Radio Network helpline. I unfortunately do not have that number right now. I once did, but I kind of forgot it. But yeah, I mean, that's really about it, man. That's everything you need to know about the Georgia Radio Network. Broadcast against UT Martin. It's going to start at 2 p.m. We'll lead you in with the Bulldog Dog Talk, and then you'll get the tailgate show, and then we'll lead you into the countdown to kickoff, and then it's game time. I'm begging, man. Please credit these guys. Credit them. Credit Learfield. Listen to them all, because the Georgia Radio Network, guys, I love y'all. You are one of the best. You are the best in the nation. I love you, Scott. I love you, Eric. I love you, DJ. I love you, Hondo. I love you, JD and Adam. I love KB and love Jay. Love Chris Giovanni too. I love everybody who works on the radio broadcast. But please just credit them. That's all I got to say, man. Just Georgia Radio Network broadcast starts at 2 p.m. on Saturday, and just credit Learfield.